Well, hello and welcome back to Read Becca. It's my TBR, the first one of 2024. I'm really looking forward to 2024. I recently posted up my goals for 2024, and probably the biggest one involved here is that my goal for the start of the year is to read 24 books from my own shelves before I go pick up library books or buy anything else. So that's a constraint, a major constraint of this TBR. However, that dovetails really nicely with a readathon that's going to be going on in January. So that's actually the framing, I would say, for everything that I'm going to be doing here, is the TBRathon coming up in January, hosted by Leandra and the TBR Zero. Leandra has put a ton of work into this, and so I highly recommend you go check out Leandra's video because it's phenomenal. There are multiple ways to participate. Personally, I am choosing to use the bingo board, which I will put up here somewhere, and I'm just going to go for a standard bingo, and specifically I'm targeting one particular diagonal. So those are my prompts for how I picked these books. I also leaned toward my goals again by letting BookTube heavily influence all of these choices. So another sort of contextual thing is that I haven't actually set my 2024 TBR shelf. I have a dedicated shelf that holds around 50 books, which is definitely doable for me within a year, but I never get close to reading all of them. And I roll that over on New Year's Day. So that's become kind of a recent year's tradition where I pull off all of the books that I've read, and the shelf stays static for the whole year. So I'm not taking things on or off. But the stuff I read comes off, and that's how much room I have to pull new stuff and replace. So we will see how much there will be there. I don't know yet. But I also, as a result of this going out before I have said that, I've made the executive decision that nothing in this pile is going to be in my 2024 year TBR. Because I'm reading so many books that I own, at least 24, I think that's fine. I will definitely get 2 books that are on my TBR shelf. So these are not 2024 TBR, but they are books from my shelves that I want to get to. So with all of that context given, now let's get into what my actual TBR is and what those prompts from the TBRathon are that tie to them. So up first is the top left corner. B is for blue on the cover. And I'm going with a very blue book. This is Hex by Jenny Fagan, and it's a very tiny book. So this will maybe be the book I start out the month with, because I love to, on New Year's Day, get in a good read and finish something, and then go sift out my TBR shelf. So this one I would not know about if it weren't for BookTube, but I can't pinpoint a specific person, so I'm sorry. This is one that I got by osmosis. I heard a lot of people talk about it, specifically people in England, because this only released in the UK. It's not available in the US. I had to order it from Blackwell's. So I specifically ordered this based on BookTube, and then I haven't gotten to it in several months. This is a recent release though, so I'm happy to be getting to it pretty quick. And this is, I think, a slightly fantastical speculative story about a woman in the past who is about to be killed for witchcraft, sometime around the 1600s or late 1500s. And another woman shows up to her jail cell and says she's from the future and tells her that women are still being oppressed and treated horribly in the future, which sounds very depressing. But I've heard that this is really beautiful and very amazing feminist storytelling. So I'm really looking forward to that one. The second prompt is, I think, Therefore I Am, in a first-person perspective. I did not go through this whole book, but this is A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, and it looked like at least the beginning was in first person, so I will try it, and if it is not, I will pick something else. But for now, this is going to count for that. And this one has been on my radar for a while because people rave about it, but very specifically, I believe this is one of Scott's favorite books from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. And he has impeccable taste most of the time, so I do really want to get to it. So I picked this up, as you can see, for a couple dollars at a secondhand sale, and so I really need to try this one out. I also love epistolary style or mixed media style, and as far as I know, this has a diary or maybe letters that are a large part of the telling, because we are following a character named Ruth, who is a writer, who is a fictionalized version of the author possibly, who finds a lunchbox in the ocean, and picks it up, discovers it has a diary that may or may not be from a girl in the Japanese tsunami in 2011, I think. So it's kind of contemporary and maybe has some timey-wimey elements, possibly. I don't know, but I'm really curious to try this one out because so many people love this book. The next one was actually a direct subscriber comment, and this is going to be for my free space, so there's nothing in here that's going specifically toward a prompt, but this is Fellowship Point by Alice Elliot Dark, and this was recommended by Jacqueline McMinnon, who everybody I think knows because Jacqueline comments all over the place on BookTube. Wonderful, very friendly commenter, and I was so happy to have this suggested and then find it secondhand again very cheaply at a charity sale immediately thereafter. So I really want to get to this because I did pick it up in 2023, so I want to quickly turn around that suggestion. This is a bookish one as well, and we're following another author who is kind of a prominent children's author facing the end of her life, and she is planning a land trust, but she somehow has to sort of get through a contentious fight about that, I believe, and this is, I believe, going to be all about that drama. So it sounds like it's fairly small-scale personal stakes and very atmospheric, and those are all vibes that I really love. This one is, I think, the chunkiest one, but I've heard from the people who have read and liked it that it really flies by. So that is a great, great one that I'm looking forward to. And then I'm saying that about all of these. The next one is for another readathon, actually, that I'm going to very loosely participate in. I don't think I'm even doing anything for it, but this is John Wyndham's The Day of the Tryffids, and it is Winter of Windom right now. Hosted by Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic, and that really inspired me. But on top of that, I have a second BookTube tie-in in that David Wiley read, I think this, I don't remember now I'm confusing it, but I think it was this book. And I said, oh yeah, I really want to read that one. I only have another one of his books though that I'm much less interested in. And then I think David asked me which one it was and I went to check, and it was Day of the Tryffids that I actually had. So in my mind, I have been really desperately wanting to read Day of the Tryffids and thought it was not on my shelves, and I just had it sitting there ready and accessible. So I'm very glad to be prompted a couple of different times this year that I need to get to it. So Winter of Windom, I'm reading this. This is apocalyptic fiction. I think it is very similar in some ways to Blindness by Jose Saramago, which I read last year, where we sort of have an event with these plants, massively profligated everywhere, Tryffid plants. But something unexpected happens and everyone goes blind. And I think we're following a character who is possibly not blind or had some prior damage to his eyes and is not as badly affected. I don't know. We will find out. But this is going to be for the go-to genre prompt because I'm a massive sci-fi and fantasy reader and I do love classic sci-fi. And then the last one for this TBR, and the bottom right corner, is The Old and Maybe Dusty prompt. And this one is, it's not necessarily an old copy. It has been on my shelves far too long. And it counts as old and maybe dusty because you can see right here, I started and read this halfway through, and this is an airplane ticket. So let's see, I've been avoiding checking. This is from 2015, August 31st of 2015. So I started this many years ago and I never finished it. This was one of those experiences where I was on the plane and I don't think I was necessarily sick or anything like that, but it was a horrible experience and my mind was not in the right space. So I was reading this and continuing forward, but not actually digesting any of it. I have some brief memories of certain scenes, but I don't remember the plot at all, despite having gotten halfway through. So I really want to read this. I think this is another one of Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot's favorites as well, but more specifically, a couple months ago, I think, Freddie from Sluggish Reader also read this and reminded me that I really need to pick it up and finish it finally, because I think this is a Russian classic that I'm going to love. This has, I think, sort of a Faustian bargain type of situation. It's following historical Russia. We're following sort of the devil and cohorts showing up in someone's life and some antics. I've heard it's very, very funny, but again, I just don't remember even the tone, like certain setting moments, but nothing else. So I'm going in somewhat blind, other than very vague memories. But Master and Margarita is my last selection for my TBR this month. So that's it for the beginnings. I will read much more than this, I'm quite sure. And since everything will be from my shelves, it will all be TBR and all apply to the TBRathon, hopefully. So if you want more details about TBRathon or Winter of Windom, I will link those all down below so you can check those out. But I'm so excited to dive into 2024. I am like counting the hours of the days. Taking that first day of New Year's Day to reflect and reset my TBR shelf has been such a great habit and tradition to sort of set things off on the right foot for my reading. But it's going to be extra challenging this year because I just reorganized this entire room. So when I did that, I did put all of the finished books off my TBR shelf for 2023 together. So I'll just be able to pull them all off. However, I'm going to be pulling those and redistributing those back out into the shelves I have recently organized, and then pulling more off to put into my TBR shelf. So that's going to be a challenge. But while I was reorganizing, I saw so many books that I wanted to prioritize. Definitely more than I can put onto my TBR shelf. So it's going to be exciting. It's making me very passionate, but it's going to be difficult to really narrow down my priorities. So for now, I'm just taking it as these 5 books, and we will see where we go from there. I think that's all. Are you participating in either of the readathons that I mentioned? Because I'm very excited about them, especially looking forward to Leandra's sprints. I saw she's already announced a ton of them, so I want to try to participate in those. I'm terrible at making it for sprints or lives. I always miss the notifications, but I'm really going to try. I am so excited about these books. So tell me if you have read these books as well. I definitely want to hear more opinions because other than the people I mentioned, I don't recall specifically who has read these books that I've seen from. So yeah, I think that is it for me today. So excited for the new year, and thank you so very much for watching.